Welcome to the last ordinary night in a city that does not know it is about to end. Close your eyes and walk with me through streets that will soon exist only in memory, only in ash, only in the stories we tell when everything else has turned to stone. Let the world around you fade. Let the present dissolve. Step back through time, back to a moment when an entire city breathed, unaware, beautifully unaware, that it was breathing its final hours. The afternoon sun descends toward the Bay of Naples, casting long shadows across the basalt paving stones of Pompeii, and in these final hours of daylight, the city breathes. These shadows stretch, elongate, creep across walls painted in Pompeian red, that deep, earthy crimson, made from ground minerals, from cinnabar, from the very earth that will soon consume everything. The light itself seems to have weight. It presses down, golden and thick as honey, slanting through narrow streets, catching particles of dust, of ash, of pollen. Each mote drifting, tumbling, illuminated, then gone into shadow. The street still smells strongly of garum, that fermented fish sauce, produced and traded throughout this coastal region. Near the workshops, near the taverns, the scent hangs thick in the humid air, sharp, salty, unmistakable. But garum is more than just a smell. It is an experience, it's a presence. Close your eyes and you can almost taste it, that concentrated essence of the sea, of anchovy and mackerel left to ferment in the sun, with salt, with herbs, with thyme. In the garum shops, the vats and amphorae stand in neat rows, their contents aging slowly, giving off that peculiar aroma, salty, yes, but mixed with something else, the faint sweetness of aging fish, the ghost of herbs added months ago, oregano, maybe fennel, maybe rue. The smell clings to the humid coastal air, to the clothes of those who pass, to the wooden shutters, to everything. The workers in these shops have hands that smell permanently of brine, of fish oil. No amount of washing removes it completely. It seeps into the skin, into the lines of their palms. It becomes part of them, part of their identity. They are garum makers, and everyone knows it by scent alone. Beneath your feet, the basalt paving stones stretch in all directions, worn smooth by decades, centuries, of iron-rimmed cart wheels. These stones are dark, nearly black, volcanic rock from ancient eruptions, now serving as the foundation for 10,000 footsteps each day. In the center of each street, the surface has been polished, almost glassy, while at the edges, the stone remains rougher, textured, like frozen waves, like solidified lava, which is exactly what it once was. These streets remember every cart, every foot, every animal that ever passed this way. They hold memory in their worn surfaces, in their smooth centers, in their rough edges. Run your hand along these stones in your mind. Feel their coolness, their density, their age. They are neither quite smooth nor quite rough, but somewhere between, weathered into a texture that speaks of time, of use, of life lived above them. White limestone stepping stones cross the streets at regular intervals, raised high above the road surface. These allow pedestrians to cross without stepping in the effluent, the waste, the mud that accumulates in the street gutters. They gleam pale in the fading light, islands of cleanliness in rivers of urban reality. As dusk approaches, the sound of carts begins to diminish, but it does not disappear entirely. Occasional rattles still echo, iron rims rolling over stone, between the insulae, the apartment blocks. Merchants make their last deliveries, their final journeys before nightfall. The metallic clatter bounces off walls, fades, returns, fades again. This sound has a particular quality, not harsh exactly, but insistent, rhythmic, almost musical in its repetition. The wheels catch in worn grooves, they bounce over uneven surfaces, they sing their iron song, a lullaby of commerce, of movement, of life in motion. At nearly every street corner, water fountains provide their constant, gentle trickle. The sound is soft, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. It masks some of the harsher street noises, this endless splash and gurgle, water flowing, always flowing, fed by the intricate aqueduct system through lead pipes into stone basins. These fountains are more than sound. They are texture. The stone basins are cool under your hand, smooth from centuries of contact, of hands dipping, of cloth being dampened, of cups being filled. The limestone is pale, almost white, but stained with mineral deposits, green, rust-colored, evidence of the water's journey through earth and pipe. The water itself tastes faintly metallic, the taste of lead pipes, sharp on the back of the tongue. But the people of Pompeii have grown accustomed to it. They cup their hands, they drink, they wash, and they do not notice anymore. This is what water tastes like. It has always tasted this way. It will always taste this way. Dip your imagined hands into this water. Feel its coolness, its silken flow over your fingers. Notice how it catches the light, how it breaks into droplets, how it falls back into the basin with that eternal, unchanging, endless splash. In the late afternoon, the public baths become the heart of the city's social life. People drift toward them, drawn by routine, by companionship, by the promise of warmth. The baths are a major social hub, a place to bathe, to socialize, to let the concerns of the day dissolve in heated water. The entrance to the bath complex is marked by columns, by archways, by the constant flow of people moving in and out. Some still wear their street clothes, dusty from the day's work. Others emerge clean, damp, their skin flushed from heat, their hair wet and combed, transformation complete, the day's grime left behind in the caldarium's steam. Inside the bath complexes, the air transforms. It becomes warm, humid, almost thick enough to touch. The temperature rises as you move deeper, from the apoditerium, the changing room, through progressively warmer spaces, until you reach the caldarium, where the heat embraces you, surrounds you, enters your lungs with each breath. The scent of steam mingles with sweat, with the faint aroma of oils, of olive oil mixed with lavender, with rose petals crushed to paste, with cleaning substances used on skin, strigils scraping away dead cells, oil and dirt together, the detritus of living. It is not unpleasant, merely alive, human, real. This is what humanity smells like, unmasked, unashamed, accepted. Footsteps echo on tile and stone, mosaic patterns beneath bare feet, geometric designs, mythological scenes, all slightly slippery from water and oil. Voices reverberate off the high, vaulted ceilings of the caldarium, the hot room, and the tepidarium, the warm room. Every sound multiplies, every word spoken becomes a chorus, every laugh echoes, every splash radiates outward in waves of sound. The architecture itself amplifies life. The curved ceilings gather sound, hold it, release it slowly. Conversations overlap, blend, become a tapestry of human interaction, business deals, gossip, philosophy, jokes, complaints, all mixing together in the steam, in the heat. In this temporary democracy of the bath, where everyone is naked, everyone is equal, everyone is simply human. The tiles are warm beneath your feet, heated from below by the hypercourse system, channels of hot air running under the floor. Heat rises through the terracotta tiles, not scorching, but constantly warm, like standing on sun-heated stone. The sensation is deeply comforting, grounding, it connects you to the earth below, to the fire that warms it, to the engineering that makes this luxury possible. Outside the baths, street vendors have set up their small stalls. They sell snacks, nuts, bread, mulled wine warmed over small braziers. The smell of spiced wine drifts through the early evening air, cinnamon perhaps, honey certainly, the sweet warmth of fermented grapes mingling with aromatic spices. This adds a festive note to the streets, a sense of abundance, of simple pleasures available to anyone with a few coins. The vendors call out, their voices competing, rising above the ambient noise. Fresh bread, still warm, bread here. Wine, spiced wine, drive out the evening chill. The bread they sell is dense, chewy, made from barley or wheat. Its crust is dark and crackling, its interior soft and yielding. Break it open and steam escapes, carrying the yeasty smell of fermentation, of grain transformed by heat and time. Taste it, feel its texture on your tongue, this staff of life, this daily sustenance, this promise of tomorrow. But there have been tremors. Some residents have reported minor earth tremors in the years before this night, in the days before this night. But they have grown accustomed to such quakes. The earth shakes, they steady themselves against door frames, against walls, against each other, they wait for it to pass, and then they continue. They do not see these movements as ominous. They are simply part of life near the mountain. The ground shifts. Objects rattle. Hanging lamps sway. It is no different from the wind, from the rain, from any other natural occurrence. The earth moves. So what? The earth has always moved. And then it stops. And life continues. There was a major quake in the year 62. 17 years ago. It damaged many buildings, cracked walls, toppled columns, shattered pottery, frightened everyone, for a time. But 17 years is long enough to forget fear, long enough to rebuild, long enough to normalize catastrophe. And so scaffolding in the streets has become normal. Cracks in walls are merely something to repair, eventually, when there's time, when there's money. Pompeians have learned to live with the instability, to accept it, to forget it. The cracks are just there, like wrinkles on a face, evidence of age, of stress, and of survival. In some wells and cisterns, people may have noticed changes. Water levels shifting, clarity diminishing. Perhaps a sulphurous taste. Perhaps an unusual warmth. But these are subtle signals, easily dismissed. Perhaps the season is dry. Perhaps it is nothing. Perhaps it will pass. The volcanic unrest beneath Vesuvius whispers, but no one is listening. The mountain sends its messages through water, through earth, through the behavior of animals. But these messages are written in a language no one here can read. Or perhaps no one wants to read. Fear is uncomfortable. Normalcy is easier. And so the signs are missed, dismissed, forgotten. Animals behave strangely sometimes. Dogs pace, refuse to settle, their nails clicking on tile floors, on stone pathways. They whine, a high anxious sound. They look toward the mountain, ears forward, bodies tense, waiting for something their human companions cannot sense. Livestock shift restlessly in their pens. Horses stamp. Chickens refuse to roost. Birds fly in confused patterns, circling, landing, taking off again, as if the air itself has become unreliable, as if the sky is not where it should be. But this is easy to overlook. Dogs are always restless about something, another dog, a cat, a stranger passing. This night, they may be pacing more, whining more, but who can say for certain? Who would think to make note of it? Who would connect the dots between restless animals and the mountain that looms, always looms, over everything? Above the city, the night sky begins to deepen, darker than any modern sky, without electric light to dim the stars. The stars emerge one by one, crisp, brilliant, eternal, appearing first in the east, then spreading westward, filling the darkening dome with points of light, with familiar constellations, with the eternal patterns that guide sailors, that mark seasons, that remain unchanging while everything else transforms. And they're always there. Vesuvius rises against the darkening blue, its silhouette familiar, almost comforting. The mountain is part of the horizon, part of the view from every window, part of the backdrop to every outdoor activity. It has always been there. It will always be there. Permanent, reliable, unchanging, safe. Sometimes, the mountain emits faint luminous glows at night. Sometimes a wisp of smoke rises from its peak. But this too is normal. This is what mountains do, especially this mountain. It breathes. It sighs. It releases pressure in small, harmless ways. This is good. This means the mountain is stable, regulated, safe. The residents of Pompeii do not see Vesuvius as an active, explosive volcano. They do not have that concept, that understanding. They do not fear it. Many likely consider it simply part of the landscape. A mountain. Their mountain. It provides fertile soil. It provides stone for building. It provides the dramatic backdrop that makes their city beautiful. Permanent, unchanging, safe, theirs. Some ancient writers, centuries before this night, described volcanic eruptions. But those stories are distant. They happened elsewhere, to other people, in other times. Surely nothing like that could happen here. Not to Pompeii. Not to them. Not when life is so normal, so predictable, so thoroughly woven into the fabric of daily routine. Some writers, centuries after this night, will suggest that animals and birds behave strangely before earthquakes, before eruptions. And perhaps here in Pompeii, such behavior exists tonight. But it would be so easy to dismiss as random, as meaningless, as just another evening's oddities. Dogs are strange. Birds are erratic. These are known facts. Why should tonight be different? Earth tremors may have caused hanging oil lamps to sway slightly this afternoon. The chains holding them would have made soft clinking sounds, metal links moving against each other. Water in basins may have rippled in concentric circles, expanding outward, overlapping, disappearing, evidence written in liquid, then erased, leaving no trace. But these are subtle signs. They do not disrupt daily routines. They do not prevent dinner from being prepared, children from being called inside, shutters from being closed against the night. Life continues, as it always continues, flowing forward, inevitable as water, certain as sunrise, dependable, normal, safe. The evening meal must be prepared. The shutters must be closed. Tomorrow will come, as it always does. The rhythm of life does not stop for vague unease, for anxious dogs, for trembling earth. The rhythm continues. Must continue. Will continue. Tomorrow. Certain families may carry private anxieties about the recent quakes, about minor damages to their homes, walls that need replastering, columns that need reinforcing, roof tiles that need replacing. But there is no evidence of mass exodus, no panic, no flight, no one loading carts with valuables and fleeing inland, away from the bay, away from the mountain. No. Life in Pompeii proceeds, as it has always proceeded, with trust, with routine, with the assumption of continuity. Tomorrow will be like today. Next week will be like last week. The seasons will turn. Children will grow. Businesses will prosper or fail on their own merits, not because the world ended, not because everything was buried, not because. Some residents may have noticed unusual smells tonight. Faint sulfur perhaps, like rotten eggs, sharp and unpleasant. A change in the air quality, a thickness, a heaviness, as if the atmosphere itself has become more dense, harder to breathe, laden with something invisible but present. But in a city already full of smoke from cooking fires, from workshops, from bathhouse furnaces, full of industrial odors from fulling workshops where urine is used to clean cloth, from garum factories, from tanneries, from bakeries, from all the enterprises of urban life, in a city full of the ever-present garum and human waste and animal dung and rotting garbage, these differences are easy to miss, easy to ignore. They blend into the olfactory background, just another scent in a city of 10,000 scents. Nothing alarming. Nothing urgent. Just there. Like everything else. Normal. Familiar. Unremarkable. Forgettable. Even the feel of volcanic ash underfoot, fine and gritty, has always been part of the natural environment around Vesuvius. The volcanic soil, the fine dust, the particles that settle on everything, on roofs, on streets, on clothing left to dry in the sun. This has always been here. This is normal. This is how things are. And so when the first ashfall begins tomorrow, it will not seem immediately terrifying. It will seem almost normal. Just more ash. Just more dust. Just the mountain doing what the mountain does. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to flee from. Just ash falling like snow, but not snow, never snow again. Near the city's edge, on calm nights like this one, people can sometimes hear the sea. Faint wave sounds carried on the breeze, the eternal rhythm of water meeting land, of advance and retreat, of the tide's slow breathing. The proximity of the bay means that sometimes, just sometimes, a mild sea breeze reaches even the interior streets, carrying salt, carrying coolness, carrying moisture, carrying the promise of maritime trade, of connection to the wider world. This breeze feels different from inland wind. It has texture, weight, dampness. It carries the scent of seaweed, of brine, of fish drying on boats, of the vast wet wilderness beyond the harbor. It tastes of salt when you lick your lips, leaving tiny crystals on your skin, in your hair, on your clothes, marking you as a coastal dweller, as someone who lives where land meets water, where solid ground gives way to liquid uncertainty. Quiet conversations will unfold in bedchambers tonight, in courtyards, in triclinium dining rooms where families recline on cushioned couches, around low tables. These conversations likely revolve around family concerns, debts that need paying, marriages that need arranging, upcoming business deals, crops that need harvesting, ships that are expected, slaves that need purchasing, children that need educating. They do not revolve around disasters, around evacuation plans, around survival strategies. They reflect a general trust, a deep assumption, that tomorrow will be normal, that the future is assured, that life will continue, that planning makes sense, that investment in tomorrow is rational, that the world will still be here when the sun rises. In some homes, parents sit with children, reviewing lessons, teaching them to count, to read, to write, on wax tablets, with bronze styluses. The children press too hard, too soft, learning the proper pressure, the proper angle, the proper technique for letters that will last, that will communicate, that will matter in the world they are being prepared to inherit. This is the dusk of omens. But the omens are not read. They are lived through, and dismissed, and forgotten. The language of catastrophe is being spoken all around, in earth tremors, in animal behavior, in subtle atmospheric changes. But no one speaks this language. No one translates these signs. And so they pass, unheeded, unnoticed, meaningless static in the background of ordinary life. As true darkness approaches, the character of the streets begins to change. The last shopkeepers pull down their shutters, wooden panels sliding into place with familiar creaks and thuds. The sound of closing shops echoes, one after another, a cascade of ending, of transition from public commerce to private rest. These shutters are thick, heavy, made to resist both thieves and weather. Their wood is scarred from years of use, from hands that have touched them daily, from the salt air that corrodes everything near the sea. They fit imperfectly into their frames, gaps remain, through which slivers of interior lamplight will escape, thin golden lines dividing darkness, promising warmth, promising shelter, promising home. Some shops have already shuttered. Their doorways are dark. Their sound silenced. But others remain open, holding on to the last customers, the last transactions, the last few coins of daylight business. In these still-lit spaces, merchants tally their earnings, sort their remaining goods, prepare for tomorrow's reopening, when it all begins again, when the shutters lift, when commerce resumes, when life continues. The taverns, the thermopolia, remain open. Of course they remain open. These are the social hearts of the working classes, the places where laborers gather after their day's work, where warmth and wine and company can be purchased, where the loneliness of urban life can be temporarily forgotten. Inside these taverns, the air is thick with conversation, with laughter, with the sharp smell of wine, of garlic, of olive oil, of bodies that have worked hard and have not yet bathed. The wine is served from large amphorae set into the stone counter, visible from the street, their contents dispensed into cups, into waiting hands, into waiting mouths. This wine is not refined. It is rough, sharp, sometimes mixed with water to make it more palatable, sometimes with honey to sweeten it, sometimes with herbs to flavor it. But refined or not, it serves its purpose. It loosens tongues. It softens the edges of exhaustion. It makes the evening more bearable, more pleasant, more human. The sound from these taverns spills into the street, voices raised in argument, in song, in storytelling. Someone is winning at dice, someone is losing. Someone is drunk, someone is laughing at the drunk one. The sounds overlap, create a texture, a fabric of human interaction. This is community. This is connection. This is life being lived in public, witnessed, shared, validated. Oil lamps flicker in niches, in doorways, in window openings. Small clay vessels filled with olive oil, wicks floating, producing small steady flames. These flames are warm-colored, golden orange, not the harsh white of modern electric light, but soft, gentle, kind to faces, kind to shadows, kind to the night. The light from these lamps does not penetrate far. It creates small pools of illumination, islands in the dark. Beyond these pools, the darkness is complete, profound, the kind of darkness that modern people never experience, the darkness that makes stars brilliant, that makes the moon meaningful, that makes fire precious, that makes light itself seem miraculous. Walk through this darkness in your mind. Feel how it presses close, how it limits vision, how it makes every sound more significant, how it changes the experience of being human. You cannot see far. You must trust the ground beneath your feet. You must listen carefully. You must pay attention. The darkness demands presence, demands awareness, demands respect. Street corners often have shrines, small niches in walls, containing statues of household gods, of protective deities. Sometimes these shrines hold small offerings, bread crumbs, flowers, a few grains of incense, evidence of faith, of hope, of the human need to believe that something watches over us, that we are not alone, that the darkness contains benevolence as well as threat. Some of these shrines have small oil lamps burning before them, maintained by residents, by shopkeepers, by those who live nearby and feel responsible. The flames flicker in slight breezes, never quite going out, kept alive through the night, small defiant lights against the enormity of darkness. In wealthier neighborhoods, the homes are more impressive. Their doors are larger, their facades more ornate, painted with elaborate designs, adorned with columns, with architraves, with all the visible markers of wealth and status. These homes turn inward. Their grandest features are not visible from the street, but reserved for the private courtyards, the peristyles, the family spaces where wealth can be displayed without the danger of envy from the street. But even here, the night is the same night. The darkness is the same darkness. The mountain rises in the same position against the same stars. Wealth does not protect against what is coming. Status does not provide safety. The ash will fall on rich and poor alike. The future does not discriminate. The wealthier homes have more elaborate oil lamps, bronze instead of clay, multiple wicks instead of single, producing more light, more warmth, more evidence of resources. These lamps are often shaped like animals, like mythological figures, like abstract designs. They are objects of beauty as well as function, evidence that humans make art even of necessity, even of simple light. In these richer houses, the walls are painted with frescoes, entire rooms depicting gardens, mythological scenes, elaborate architectural illusions. The paint is fresh, well-maintained, retouched when it fades. These paintings are not just decoration, they are statements. They say, we have resources. We have taste. We belong to the civilized world. We are cultured. We matter. But tonight, in the lamplight, these painted gardens seem to merge with shadows. The figures on the walls appear to move as flames flicker, as if the painted inhabitants are as alive as the real ones, as if the boundary between art and life has become permeable, as if anything might be possible in this uncertain light, this transitional time between day and night. Some of the grander homes have interior gardens, actual peristyle courtyards, open to the sky, surrounded by columns, planted with flowers, with herbs, with small ornamental trees. The scent of jasmine might hang in the evening air, or roses, or herbs crushed underfoot on pathways. These gardens are private paradises, small attempts to bring nature into controlled, civilized, safe proximity. Water features in these gardens produce gentle sounds. Small fountains, decorative pools. The sound of moving water is cooling, calming. It speaks of luxury, of resources sufficient to waste water on beauty alone, not just on necessity. This is the sound of prosperity, of stability, of a world that will continue, that can afford to think beyond survival, that has surplus to spend on pleasure. In the poorer neighborhoods, the insulai rise several stories high. Apartment blocks housing many families. These buildings are less grand, less painted, more practical. They house those who work, who labor, who keep the city functioning through their daily efforts. Bakers, shopkeepers, craftsmen, laborious. All those whose work makes life possible for everyone else. These buildings are more crowded, more noisy, more alive in some ways. Sounds of living overlap, children crying, couples arguing, someone cooking, someone singing, doors opening and closing, footsteps on wooden stairs. The privacy of the wealthy is not available here. Life is lived in proximity, in closeness, in the constant awareness of neighbors, of community, of mutual dependence. The stairs in these buildings are narrow, steep, worn smooth by countless feet. They creak underfoot, announce every ascending and descending body. Nothing here is silent, nothing is private. Life is shared, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, in the daily intimacy of crowded urban existence. But here too, oil lamps burn. Here too, families gather for evening meals. Here too, parents tell children to wash their hands, to sit still, to eat what they are given. Here too, life unfolds in all its ordinary beauty, its routine miracles, its daily resurrections of hope and effort and stubborn continuance. In some windows, you might glimpse movement, shadows crossing in front of lamplight, a hand reaching for something, a figure bending to tend a child. These are fragmentary glimpses into private lives, into moments not meant for outside eyes, but visible anyway in the incomplete privacy of ancient urban life. We are witnessing the inside of existence, the domestic rituals that give life structure, meaning, continuity. The bread for tomorrow has already been made in many households. It sits cooling on tables, on shelves, wrapped in cloth to keep it fresh until morning. The yeast has done its work. The dough has risen and been baked. It sits now in that perfect state, still slightly warm, still fragrant, waiting to be broken, to be shared, to become tomorrow's sustenance, tomorrow's nourishment, tomorrow. Some families have already eaten their evening meal. Lentil stew perhaps, with bread, with olives, with a little cheese if they can afford it. Simple food, but filling, nutritious, sufficient. They have eaten together, reclined around their table, or sat on stools, or stood if space is limited. They have shared food and conversation. They have nourished both body and connection. They have done what humans do. They have been family. The taste of olive oil lingers in mouths, on lips. Rich, slightly bitter, with that characteristic olive flavor that has sustained Mediterranean peoples for millennia. This oil is everywhere in Pompeii, in cooking, in lamps, in cosmetics, in medicine. It is the foundation of life here, the basis of prosperity, the substance that makes everything else possible. Feel that taste in your own imagination. The richness of it. The way it coats the tongue. The way it carries other flavors, amplifies them, completes them. This is what nourishment tastes like, what survival tastes like, what daily life tastes like in a world where food is never taken for granted, where eating well means you have succeeded, at least for today, at least for this meal. The night is deepening now. The last purple light is fading from the western sky. Stars multiply overhead. The Milky Way becomes visible, that river of light across the heavens, mysterious, eternal, utterly indifferent to human concerns. It was there before Pompeii. It will be there after. Its light left its source thousands of years ago. It reaches us now, touching this doomed city, touching these unsuspecting people, touching everything with ancient light, with time made visible. This is the twilight world. Neither day nor night. Neither awake nor asleep. A liminal space where anything might be possible, where the rules are uncertain, where the familiar becomes strange and the strange becomes familiar. This is the hour when humans are most vulnerable, most open, most aware of their own mortality, even when they are not thinking about it, even when they feel safe. And they do feel safe. Why wouldn't they? They are home, in their city, surrounded by their community, protected by their routines, by their knowledge of these streets, these houses, these neighbors. What could harm them here, in this familiar place, in this settled civilization, in this moment of ordinary evening? Nothing. Nothing could possibly harm them here. Nothing. But even as families settle into their evening routines, even as shutters close and lamps are lit, some business continues. Some work does not respect the boundary between day and night. Some activities belong to darkness. The bakeries, the pistrina, never truly close. Bread production is a continuous process. The ovens must be maintained. The dough must be prepared many hours before baking. The timing must be precise. And so bakers work through the night, all their slaves work, their assistants, those who tend the fires, who knead the endless masses of dough, who shape loaves, who monitor temperatures. These ovens are massive, dome-shaped structures of brick and stone. Their interiors glow red-orange from the fires burning within. The heat radiates outward, making the workspace warm even in winter, unbearably hot in summer. The bakers are stripped to minimum clothing, their skin gleaming with sweat, their faces reddened by heat and exertion. The smell of baking bread is one of the most powerful scents in all of Pompeii. It drifts through streets, through windows, through every opening. It speaks of civilization, of transformation, of raw grain become edible staple. It is the smell of tomorrow's promise, of guaranteed sustenance, of human ingenuity applied to human need. Breathe deeply of this imagined scent. Let it fill your lungs, your mind, your memory. This is comfort. This is home. This is safety made tangible through aroma. This is one of the oldest smells of civilization, unchanged, constant, reliable, as dependable as sunrise, as regular as the seasons, as permanent as the city itself. The texture of fresh dough is distinctive. Slightly sticky, elastic, responsive to touch. It pushes back when you push it. It holds shape when you shape it. It has memory, temperature, life of a kind. The yeast within it is alive, consuming, growing, transforming sugar to gas, making bread rise, making hard grain become soft sustenance. This is alchemy. This is magic that works, that feeds, that sustains. Some night watchmen patrol the streets. Private guards hired by wealthy residents. Public slaves responsible for certain areas. They carry torches, brands of burning pitch on wooden handles, producing smoky, irregular, moving light. This light announces their presence, makes them visible from a distance, provides security through visibility. These torches smell of pine resin, of smoke, of burning pitch. The smell is sharp, slightly acrid, but not unpleasant. It has become associated with safety, with vigilance, with the social order maintained through night as well as day. Where the torchlight moves, civilization continues. Where darkness remains unbroken, anything might happen. The watchman's footsteps echo differently than daytime footsteps. They are slower, more deliberate. They pause at corners, at doorways, at any opening where someone might hide. These men know the nighttime character of their streets. They know which doors should be closed, which shops should be dark, which sounds are normal and which are not. They are guardians of normalcy, maintainers of routine, defenders of the assumption that tomorrow will come. In some workshops, work continues by lamplight. Full ones, cloth workers, may be treading cloth in vats of urine and full as earth. The smell is harsh, ammonia sharp, eye-watering if you get too close. But this is how cloth is cleaned, how it is whitened, how it is made ready for wear. This is one of the less pleasant necessities of civilization, a reminder that not everything about urban life is beautiful. The cloth worker's feet and lower legs are stained, discolored from constant contact with the processing liquids. Their hands are reddened, roughened. But this work must be done. Cloth must be cleaned, must be maintained. And so they work, through evening, sometimes into night, standing in vats, treading, transforming dirty cloth into clean, fulfilling the endless demand for cleanliness, for freshness, for renewal. Some taverns have become louder as evening progresses. Wine has loosened inhibitions, elevated voices, enhanced emotions. Arguments may be breaking out, not serious ones, not dangerous ones, just the elevated disagreements of men who have been drinking, who feel strongly about trivial matters, who want to be heard, who want to be right, who want to be significant, at least here, at least tonight, at least among these companions. But other taverns have grown quieter. The serious drinkers have arrived. Those who drink not for pleasure but for forgetting, for escape, for the temporary relief that wine provides from whatever troubles them. These men drink silently, steadily, systematically, working their way toward oblivion, toward the blessed numbness that makes the world bearable, makes tomorrow possible, makes life endurable. Dice clatter on tavern tables. Small bone cubes with dots, with numbers, with the promise of chance, of luck, of fortune changing. Men wager small amounts, sometimes larger amounts, sometimes amounts they cannot afford. The clatter of dice, the slap of dice cups on tables, the groans of losers, the cheers of winners. This is the music of gambling, ancient, unchanged, eternal as human hope, eternal as human desperation. In some homes, oil lamps are being extinguished one by one. The day is ending. Sleep is approaching. Oil is expensive. Why waste it when darkness serves just as well for sleeping? The flames are pinched out or blown out, leaving small trails of smoke, small final wisps rising in the darkness, marking the end of consciousness, the beginning of dreams, the transition from waking world to sleeping world. The darkness that follows is complete. No streetlights exist. No electric glow. No ambient light from distant cities. Just darkness, deep and absolute. The kind of darkness where you truly cannot see your hand before your face. Where you must navigate by memory and touch, where the world becomes immediate, tactile, reduced to arm's length and no further. In this darkness, small sounds become enormous. The distant bark of a dog. The cry of a night bird. The sound of the sea if the wind is right. The whisper of breeze through shutters. These sounds are all that remains when sight is taken away. They become the entire world. They map reality. They provide orientation. They prevent total disorientation in the black immensity of night. Some people are already deeply asleep. Their breathing slow and regular. Their bodies relaxed into rest. Their minds wandering through dreams, through memories transformed into symbols, into experiences reprocessed, into the nightly reorganization of consciousness that sleep provides. They are vulnerable now. Defenseless. Trusting that morning will come, that they will wake, that life will continue. Children sleep most deeply, sprawled in abandon. Sometimes several to a bed, sharing warmth, sharing space. Their sleep is different from adult sleep. Deeper, more trusting. Less complicated by worry, by responsibility, by knowledge of the world's dangers. They sleep because sleep is what happens when you are tired. They do not question it. They do not resist it. They simply sleep. In their dreams, children may revisit the day's experiences. The games they played. The scoldings they received. The meals they ate. Dreams transform these memories, make them strange and make them meaningful in new ways. A stern parent becomes a giant. A favorite toy becomes alive. The mundane becomes miraculous. This is the work of sleep, the processing of experience into understanding, into growth, into the slow accumulation of knowledge that makes a child into an adult. Somewhere, a baby cries. The sound is sharp, demanding, impossible to ignore. A mother rises, tired, always tired, and tends to the need. A feeding perhaps? A change of clothing. A moment of comfort. This is the endless cycle of early parenthood, the sacrifice of sleep, the gift of presence, the way that life continues, one exhausted nighttime feeding at a time. The baby's cry fades, becomes a softer sound, the sleepy nursing sound, then silence as the child drifts back to sleep. The mother returns to her own bed, lies down beside her partner, tries to reclaim her own sleep. Tomorrow she will be tired. But tomorrow she will also be needed. And so she will rise and continue, as mothers have always continued, as they must continue, as they will continue, until the world ends, or they do. On some rooftops, on some balconies, a few people remain awake. Perhaps keeping watch over something. Perhaps unable to sleep. Perhaps simply enjoying the cooler night air, the relative quiet, the stars overhead. They are witnesses to this night. They see the mountain's dark mass against the stars. They breathe the night air. They exist in this moment, present, aware, alive. They cannot know they are witnesses to the last normal night. They cannot know that tomorrow's dawn will bring the end of everything. They cannot know, and so they do not carry that burden. They are simply awake on an ordinary night, looking at familiar stars, feeling a familiar breeze, being themselves in the only moment that exists, this one, now. The mountain is dark against the stars. Its peak is not quite visible, lost in the darkness, but its mass is unmistakable. Its presence is constant. It has always been there. It will always be there. Or so it seems. So everyone believes. So the entire city assumes. Permanence is an illusion, but a powerful one. We believe in it because we must, because without that belief, how could we plan? How could we build? How could we live? And so they live. In this moment. On this night. In this city. Under this mountain. They live. They breathe. They dream. They trust. They assume. They believe. They hope. They sleep. And now, we approach the deepest part of night, the hours when even taverns begin to quiet, when even the most restless find their way to bed. This is the final calm. The stillest hour. The darkest hour. The hour when the world holds its breath between past and future, between sunset and sunrise, between being and ceasing to be. But first, one more sensory memory. In the final days before the eruption, bakers' ovens in Pompeii have filled neighborhoods with the warm scent of freshly baked bread. Flat loaves baked directly on the stone floors of the furnaces. Each loaf marked with the baker's stamp, his brand, his guarantee of quality. These stamps will survive the catastrophe, pressed into carbonized bread, evidence of daily life or of routine, of the assumption that customers will return tomorrow to complain if the quality is poor. This smell, this wonderful, comforting smell, is part of home, part of safety, part of every morning's promise. It says, we are civilized. We transform raw grain into nourishment. We will continue. We have tomorrow. Tomorrow when customers will come. Tomorrow when bread will be needed. Tomorrow. Early in the evening, before full darkness, the air carried a blend. Wood smoke from household braziers, burning oak, burning olive wood, burning whatever fuel was available and affordable. The smoke has a texture, visible in lamplight, drifting, curling, finding its way through every opening. It carries the smells of different woods, different fires, different homes, all blending together into the general scent of evening in a Roman city. Olive oil from cooking rises with this smoke. The distinctive smell of oil heated to frying temperature. Not quite burning but close. The scent is rich, almost nutty. It speaks of food being prepared, of sustenance being created, of the transformation of raw ingredients into meals that will nourish, that will satisfy, that will allow life to continue for another day. The faint astringent smell of crushed herbs hangs in the air, oregano, rosemary, these grow locally, they are available, they are affordable. They are crushed between fingers, added to food, added to wine, used medicinally. Their sharp, clean scents cut through richer smells, provide a top note, a brightness, a freshness to the olfactory landscape of evening. This is the smell of dinner being prepared, of families gathering, of another day coming to its close. It is one of the most fundamental smells of human civilization. This particular combination, smoke and oil and herbs. It has fed humans for thousands of years. It will continue for thousands more, at least in places where the ground does not open, where mountains do not explode, where cities are allowed to continue. Many residents have worn scented oils instead of bathing frequently. Water is available, yes, but bathing daily is not the norm for everyone. And so they use oils, perfumed with flowers, with spices, with imported fragrances that mark status, that mask less pleasant scents, that make the human animal more acceptable in close quarters. So a crowded dining room might smell of sweat, yes, the inevitable smell of living bodies in a warm climate, but sweat softened by rose, by lily, by citrus perfumes. The human and the refined, mixed together. The body made fragrant, made acceptable, made pleasant. The animal made civilized through the application of culture, of resources, or of care. This mixing of sense creates something unique. Neither fully natural nor fully artificial, but human. Distinctively human. The scent of people living together, eating together, breathing the same air, sharing space and time and existence. This is what civilization smells like at its most intimate, most honest, most real. The Villa of the Mysteries, just outside Pompeii's walls, contains famous frescoes. They show enigmatic initiation rituals, figures larger than life, engaged in mysterious rites. Their meaning is lost, or at least uncertain. But their power remains. Their strangeness remains. Their ability to disturb, to fascinate, to haunt. At night, lit only by flickering oil lamps, these images deepen their shadows, become more mysterious, more uncanny. The figures seem to move in the uncertain light. Their eyes seem to follow. Their gestures seem more threatening, or more beckoning, or more meaningful. The boundaries between painted and real become uncertain, permeable, dangerous. These frescoes, with their unknown rituals, their dancing figures, their sense of something ancient and powerful, would seem even more uncanny in low, uneven light. The lamplight doesn't reveal, it suggests, it hints, it transforms. It makes everything more and less visible, more and less real, more and less safe. Their painted eyes would follow viewers in the dim glow. You would feel watched. You would feel judged perhaps. You would feel uncertain whether you should be there, witnessing this, whatever this is. Are these secret rites, forbidden knowledge, mysteries that outsiders should not see? The paintings do not answer. They only watch, and wait, and remain, eternal witnesses, eternal mysteries, eternal questions without answers. Archaeological finds will include loaves of bread left in ovens, carbonized by the eruption, preserved forever in their last state. This tells us something crucial. Bakers were at work as usual when the catastrophe struck. They were not fleeing. They were not afraid. They were baking, as they had baked every day of their lives. The ovens were hot, the bread was rising or already risen. The timing was calculated for morning delivery, for breakfast, for the daily breaking of fast that the word breakfast commemorates. Tomorrow will bring customers. Tomorrow will bring hunger. Tomorrow will bring the need for bread. Tomorrow. But tomorrow will bring ash instead. Tomorrow will bring fire. Tomorrow will bring the end of everything. But they do not know this. They cannot know this. And so they work. They prepare. They assume. They trust in tomorrow as humans must trust in tomorrow or go mad with fear. Some people will be found with keys, purses, small valuables clutched in their hands. This suggests they tried to lock their homes, tried to gather precious items as they fled, tried to take what mattered, what could not be replaced, what represented their lives, their achievements, their security. But their last day likely began like any other. No one woke this morning thinking, "This is my final day. This is the end of my world." They woke. They stretched. They attended to their morning needs. They broke their fast. They began their routines. All those small familiar actions that make up a life, that provide structure, that provide meaning, that provide the illusion of continuity. No one said goodbye this morning. Not final goodbye. They said, "See you tonight. See you soon. See you later." Because they expected to see each other again. Because tomorrow was certain. Because the future was assured. Because the world does not end on ordinary mornings, in familiar cities, for no particular reason. Skeletons will be discovered in unusual positions. Crouched in corners. Huddled in groups, lying near doorways, faces covered, backs turned to windows. These positions hint at hurried decisions, at confusion, at the realization, too late, that this is not a normal emergency. This is not something you can wait out. This is not survivable. These positions speak of the last moments and of the desperate hope that maybe if we hide here, maybe if we cover our faces, maybe if we stay together, maybe we can survive this. But the ash is too deep, the heat too intense, the gases too poisonous. There is no surviving what is coming. There is only dying in these positions, in these places, becoming part of the archaeological record, becoming evidence, becoming memory. Others will be found in underground spaces, in cellars, in storage rooms, or by the seashore, at the boat docks, in the boat houses. These locations indicate attempts to seek shelter, to escape, to find another way, to survive by any means available. The seashore especially, those people tried to escape by boat, tried to flee across water. But the sea offered no more safety than the land. Nowhere was safe. Nowhere could protect against what came. These decisions came only once the danger was unmistakable, only once the ash was falling heavily, only once buildings began to collapse, only once the world had already ended, and all that remained was the desperate hope of survival, the animal imperative to continue, to persist, to somehow or impossibly make it through. In some houses, chests of jewelry, coins, fine tableware will remain untouched. Valuables left behind, not because they did not matter, but because there was no time to retrieve them, no time to think of them, no time to do anything but run. This shows there was no long, slow evacuation. There was no warning, no time to pack, no time to choose carefully, no time to save anything. Many residents did not expect to lose everything. They expected to return. They expected their houses to still be standing. They expected to come back tomorrow and resume their lives. They expected, wrongly, fatally, that the world would still be here, that home would still exist, that tomorrow would come. Children in Pompeii likely played in courtyards and streets today, using nuts as toys, using small bones like dice, using carved pieces like dolls. Their laughter was part of the everyday soundscape, that bright, piercing sound of childhood joy. The sound that marks innocence, that marks the beginning of everything, that marks the future taking breath. They played until bedtime, until their mothers called them in, until darkness made the streets unsafe for play. And then they came inside, reluctantly perhaps, one more minute, one more game, one more throw. But eventually they came. They washed their hands. They ate their evening meal. They were tucked into bed. They closed their eyes. They are sleeping now, most of them, dreaming of tomorrow's games. Tomorrow they will play again. Tomorrow they will laugh again. Tomorrow they will be children again, in a world that still exists, in a city that still stands, in lives that still continue. Tomorrow. Educational graffiti and scratched letters on walls suggest that some children practiced writing there. Their clumsy letters, their uncertain hands, their attempts to master this skill. All of this preserved by the ash. Their homework, their practice, their evidence of trying, of learning, of believing in a future where literacy will matter. These scratched letters speak of hope, of investment in tomorrow, of parents who believed their children would need to read, would need to write, would need these skills for lives that would be long and prosperous. The act of teaching a child to write is an act of faith, faith in the future, faith in continuity, faith that the world will persist long enough for these skills to matter. Wax tablets sit on tables, awaiting tomorrow's business. The tactile feel of these tablets, smooth, slightly yielding, warm under your hand, soft enough to take an impression, hard enough to hold it. This is the memory technology of the ancient world. Temporary, reusable, impermanent, like the business deals they record, like the appointments they note, like the lives they document. The tablets show today's accounts, today's appointments, today's plans. Tomorrow they will be smoothed. The old writing will be erased. New writing will take its place. This is how business works. This is how records are kept. This is how the present becomes the past, through this simple action, this smoothing, this erasing, this making space for what comes next. But tomorrow, these tablets will not be smoothed. Tomorrow, these final records will become permanent, carbonized, preserved evidence. They will show us what the last day looked like, what mattered, what was planned, what was assumed. They will show us that the people of Pompeii had tomorrow, had future, had plans that would never be fulfilled, had appointments that would never be kept, had business that would never be completed. The city's rhythms have created a sense of continuity. Fountains trickling, carts rattling, vendors calling, bathers splashing, taverns humming. These sounds repeat daily. They mark time. They provide structure. They create the illusion of permanence through repetition, through familiarity, through the way that routine makes the world feel stable, solid, safe. Even small tremors, even odd animal behavior, all of this is absorbed into the familiar pattern. Nothing disrupts the pattern. Nothing breaks the rhythm. Or if it does, the disruption is temporary. The pattern reasserts itself. The rhythm continues. Life has momentum. Life persists. Life finds its groove and stays there. Until it doesn't. Until everything changes. Until the pattern breaks forever. As the last night before the eruption unfolds, most of Pompeii seems beautifully ordinary. Lamplight falls on painted walls, casting shadows that dance and flicker. The scent of oil and bread hangs in the air, mixing, mingling, creating that distinctive smell of evening, of home, of settlement, of humans gathered together. Distant voices echo in the dark. Somewhere, someone is laughing. The sound carries strangely in the night air, distorted by distance, made mysterious by darkness. But it is laughter nonetheless, joy nonetheless, the sound of humans enjoying themselves, finding pleasure, finding connection, finding reasons to continue. Somewhere, someone is arguing. Voices raised, not in violence but in passion, in the intensity of disagreement between people who care what the other thinks. This too is part of the soundscape, part of the texture of urban night, part of the evidence of life being lived fully, messily, humanly. Somewhere, someone is making love. In darkness, in privacy, in the intimate spaces where humans come together. This too is part of tonight, part of the continuance of life, part of the way that humans connect, that humans seek comfort, that humans affirm existence through the body's pleasures, through touch, through intimacy, through the momentary dissolution of loneliness. And above them all, above this living, breathing city, above every house and street and fountain and wall, the mountain rests, silently, waiting. Vesuvius stands in darkness, invisible except as an absence of stars, as a shape against the sky. As a presence more felt than seen. It has stood there for centuries, for millennia. It will stand there for millennia more. Permanent, eternal, unchanged. Or so it seems. So it has always seemed. But the mountain is not resting. It is preparing. Deep beneath its slopes, in chambers filled with magma, in pockets of superheated rock, in reservoirs of liquid stone, pressure is building, has been building for years, for decades, for centuries. The pressure must be released. Will be released. Tomorrow. Tomorrow when the mountain remembers what it is. In the houses of Pompeii tonight, people are settling into sleep. They lie down on their beds. Some on wooden frames with rope supports, some on stone platforms with mattresses of straw and wool, some on the floor with only blankets. But all finding their sleeping spaces, their nightly refuges, their places of rest and dream. They extinguish most of their lamps, conserving oil for tomorrow, making darkness their blanket. Oil costs money. Oil is precious. Why waste it when sleep needs no light, when dreams need no illumination, when the body rests better in darkness? They pull their blankets close, wool mostly, scratchy but warm. The weight of the blanket is comforting. It marks the boundary between waking and sleeping, between dressed and undressed, between public and private. It provides security, cocoons the body, creates the nest where sleep can happen. They whisper final words to their partners, to their children, to their household gods. Good night. Sleep well. See you in the morning. Small words, routine words, but freighted with love, with connection, with the assumption of continuance, with the faith that morning will come, that we will wake, that life will resume. They close their eyes. Consciousness begins to fade. Thoughts become less coherent. Images appear unbidden. The boundary between waking and sleeping blurs, softens, dissolves. And sleep takes them, that small death, that nightly journey into the unknown, that necessary surrender of control, of awareness, of self. They do not know. They cannot know that this ordinary night, this beautifully ordinary night, is the last night of their world. Tomorrow, the mountain will remember what it is. Tomorrow, the ash will fall like snow, but not snow, never snow again. Tomorrow, the sky will darken at noon. The sun will be blotted out. The air will fill with ashen gas and fire. The ground will shake. Buildings will collapse. People will run and find nowhere to go, no escape, no safety, only ash, falling, falling, until everything is buried. Tomorrow, this city of life, of garum and bread and wine and laughter, of work and play and love and argument, of routine and rhythm and assumption, this city will become a city of silence, of stone, of memory. But tonight they sleep. In lamplight. In safety. In the beautiful, terrible, final calm. Before everything ends. Rest now. Close your eyes. Feel the cool mosaic tiles beneath your feet. Smell the olive oil burning in clay lamps. Hear the distant fountain, trickling, eternal, meaningless. Soon all these sounds will stop. Soon all these sensations will cease. Soon there will be only silence, only ash, only memory. You are in Pompeii. On the last quiet night. Before the world remembers that nothing, nothing at all, is permanent, that cities fall, that lives end, that everything, everyone, every moment, is temporary, is fleeting, is precious precisely because it will not last. Sleep well, traveler. Sleep in the final calm of a city that does not know it is already a memory. Already a ghost, already the past. The night deepens. The stars will slowly overhead. The mountain waits. And in the streets, in the houses, in the bedrooms of Pompeii, humans sleep and dream and breathe and live for these final hours, these last moments, this beautiful, terrible, ordinary night. Sleep. Sleep in the calm. Sleep in the unknowing. Sleep in the final hours of a world that will end at dawn.